and welcome to another episode of EPMS Tech Talk. I'm Joanne and LaFlamme.
I'm Chris Costa.
So Chris, what would you like to talk about today?
Well, can we go through maybe the workflow for a data collection user to use concurrent processing in data collection?
Sure, that's a good topic. One probably really efficient way to do data collections when you're a concurrent user is to set up a process, like a miscellaneous process, that they just kind of stay in all day long as the main process. Then you can use that concurrent ability to add and stop processes all day long. And the reason why we suggest doing that is because if you clock into the first process and then you add these other concurrents, if you finish the first process before you're done with the concurrence, it just gets a little trickier to stop that one and then stop the concurrence, because the way we treat a whole production entry as opposed to a concurrent production entry differently.
Okay.
So this way, if you do a miscellaneous process, you can just stay in that all day long, or at least until you go to lunch, and be able to go in and out of the concurrence back and forth.
Okay.
All right?
All right. Can we take a look how we might set that up?
Sure. So let's start with setting up the miscellaneous process. So I'm going to go into File Maintenance, and then we'll go up to the Cost Centers, and we'll go down to Miscellaneous. So this is where you would set it up. And you can see we have this data collection concurrent miscellaneous process here. So I'm going to modify that. And in here, all you really have to do is give it a description. It is payable to your employee, but it's not chargeable to jobs, because this is just going to be kind of a placeholder for their time. And we won't require a completion code. We don't need to complete the process. We just need it to really be a placeholder, just like lunch is, or a meeting, or something like that.
Okay.
Okay?
All right. Can we look at how, maybe walking through a data collection process?
Sure.
Okay.
All right, so let me, I'll just cancel out of here, and we'll just go into data collections. So I'm going to open up data collections, and typically this was probably going to be used most often in pre-press, maybe in your digital area as well, where you'll be working on multiple jobs at the same time. So let me get down to Joe Pressman here, and we're going to clock him in. So of course, when you clock in, the first thing you have to do is give it the entry that you're starting. Well, instead of actually picking a job that I'm clocking into, I'm going to get down to the List All Processes. As you know, that'll bring up all the different processes that Joe's department is available to clock into. And if you put this at the very top, it makes it real easy. All he'll have to do is double click on that entry, double click on normal work, and he's good to go. Now he's clocked into that process, and the clock is ticking. So he's logged in, and he's in at work. He's getting paid. And then when he's ready to work on jobs, he'll just do that under the concurrent button.
Yep.
So let's take a look at that.
All right.
So now I'm going to go to the concurrent button, and I'll pick my first process. So I'll click Add, and I get into the same entry now, and now I can pick a job. I can type a job number in, I can go to my job list, or pick a job from my scheduled jobs. And I'll pick my component, and we'll do the pre-flighting. Normal work, and we click OK. Now if he's going to start a second job, we can go back to concurrent, and he can hit Add again. And we'll go down to this coil binding job, and say he's working on the cover of that as well, and he's doing the art and design on that, normal work, and we'll click OK. So now he's got both of those jobs running at the same time, but in the background he's also in that data collection.
Sure.
So let's take a look at his time card.
Absolutely. Good.
Okay. So we'll click on the time card. So it shows here that he logged in, and that he's in this data collection entry. So you can see he has a start time here, but the end time's at 12 o'clock because it's not over yet. He's in the middle of it. But it shows each of the processes he's working on with a little C next to it because they're concurrent. They're happening at the same time. One he started at 1:19, one he started at 1:20, and there's no end time again because we're in the middle of it. Say he finishes one of those jobs. He would hit concurrent. He can highlight whatever job he's done with and just hit the stop button. And then he has to complete it. So maybe this is the process is complete. He can put in a quantity if he needs to. Click OK. Say whether he used a material or not. And it just marks it as complete. Gives it a stop time here, and it's no longer active. So now he's only into this one job. And again, he can start another one. And he can kind of do this all day long, clocking in and out of the things he's working on. Okay?
And there's no downside at all which job gets completed first or...
Nope, it'll
The
just
order
put
of
the start and end time. The only thing he'll have to do is when he goes to lunch. Now when he goes to lunch, he's going to have to clock out of all his processes, go to lunch, and then come back and go into data collections again.
Okay.
So let's take a quick look at that.
Sure.
So I'm going to go to the concurrent process and stop everything I'm working on. This one's already stopped, but these two are active. So I'm going to stop this one. And maybe I'm still working on that. And then I'm going to stop this one. And maybe that one, the process is complete. So now everything's done here, but I'm still in that data collection entry. So if I'm going to go to lunch, I'm going to go to production. And again, because lunch doesn't require a job number, I'm going to click down in here in the process code, hit my list all, and select lunch. And now I'm off at lunch. Now the hour goes by, or half hour, whatever it is, I'm ready to work again. I just simply click on production, come down here to my process code and do a list all again, and go back into that DC concurrent process. And that started up again, and now again I can go back to concurrent, and I can add my next entry, and just as I did for the morning, I can go in and pick the entries I'm working on. So it just makes it a little easier because it's just back and forth all day long in the concurrent processes.
Sure. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Any questions?
Okay. No, that was great.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us for another episode of EPMS Tech Talk. I'm Joanne LaFlamme.
Chris Costa.
Please look forward for more to come.